Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So we are seeing more and more teams get eliminated from playoff contention, world contention, and having their 2022 season come to an end in the LEC and LCS like each weekend, but it's happening all around the world as well. There are plenty of other players and teams that are now in off-season mode and are now already starting to think about and having to figure out what the heck's going on and what they're going to be doing next year. In this video today, we're going to be going over a player that I think is about to have a very, very spicy offseason, and that is former LCS MVP and former C9 top laner Summit. Recently, we saw this Reddit post on the TSM subreddit, and he said, or this person said, LS just said it is possible that Summit ends up in NA next year, and this does not surprise me at all, and I don't think this will surprise many people, but obviously it's interesting to hear from LS's mouth, and we'll watch the clip here in a second, because LS has a lot of connections, especially to Korean players. He knows people, he talks to people all the time, he hears rumors, so this is an interesting sign. But we know that Summit, even before his stint with Cloud9 in the spring of 2022, it sounds like Summit had tried to go to North America before. I don't know if he likes the money in North America. I don't know if he just likes the United States, if he likes Los Angeles, or doesn't really like Korea, China. I don't really know exactly what's going on, but this guy has tried coming to North America before. It seems like he enjoyed his time in North America very well. Again, even though he played pretty poorly down the stretch and Cloud9 played pretty poorly down the stretch, this guy was an absolute monster for like 90% of the LCS season, and he won an MVP in his one split here. So you could see why he would want to come back and maybe try and relive some of that glory, especially if the pay is very, very handsome as well. And you can also see why a lot of teams may be interested in him. Not only some LCS teams potentially, but also some LEC teams, and I'm sure some LCK and LPL teams as well. So there's going to be a market for him. It's going to be pretty spicy. It's going to be pretty interesting, and where is he going to end up? I just don't know, but I do know that this stint in the LPL with Fun Plus Phoenix, a lot of people were like, FPX, what the heck are you doing? Why are you getting Summit? Hey, did you not just see him stink it up in the LCS playoffs? LCS sucks. He did bad, so he's going to suck in the LPL for sure, but Summit went over to the LPL and was actually not just good, but like pretty good, like really good a lot of the times. He also showed he can play a lot of different champions. He also showed he can bounce back from what was a very, very public and embarrassing end to his Cloud9 tenure, and I think that's going to do him a lot of good heading into this offseason. So let's see what LS had to say about this, and then we can kind of jump into some of my thoughts and opinions and look at what's going on here.
Want to let KT burst their CDR so they wouldn't contest Drake? No. I don't think anything like that has happened. Is Graves still good? Been away for 5 months.
Yeah, and they're only
apparently Summit might we have a mutual friend, and Summit might end back up in NA next year, which is interesting.
Fake Baron into turn.
So, he doesn't drop anything too crazy on us there, but he does say that, hey, he has a mutual friend and he heard that Summit could be coming back to NA next year. And that's going to get people wondering, like, okay, is it actually going to happen? And of course, if it does, what teams are you going to be going to? And we know that between spring and summer, Summit wanted to go to TSM. Summit said, hey, I was trying to join TSM, but it got blocked. C9 came out and said, hey, we didn't block him to any teams. We were going to let Summit go wherever he wanted. And then it came out that, TSM just decided that they didn't want Summit. TSM were the ones shutting it down. TSM were the ones blocking it. From what I've heard, some of the rumors is that it's because either Summit, I think it ended up being that Summit's contract was too high, or maybe he was looking for too much money or something like that. Obviously, TSM has not exactly been the team throwing around the most money in the world, unless it was to Kaido and Shenny, or unless it was to, Peter Zhang's freaking whatever crazy ideas he was coming up with, or whatever. But since then, they've gotten a little cheaper. They've wanted to cut back and stuff. So I could see why they wouldn't want to drop a ton of money on Summit, especially when at the time they thought they were going to have Huni going into the future. But now all of a sudden, with Huni retiring, and Sol maybe not quite being ready for the LCS, and Solo, he's been good, but is he really going to be your top laner for the future? Maybe, but I think everyone would consider Summit better than Solo as well. But, Solo is a resident. Solo's going to be cheaper. There's for sure things on both sides. But we know TSM had some kind of level of interest in Summit in the past, when their top lane situation looked way different. We know Summit had some kind of interest in TSM in the past as well. So I think that could obviously be a pretty likely avenue. When you start to look at some of the other LCS teams as well, he's not coming back to Cloud9 when they have Fudge. EG, if Impact is about to be a free agent. I don't know if Impact's going to retire. I don't know if he's going to come back to Korea. I don't know if he's going to re-sign with EG or whatever, but like, could EG Summit potentially be an option? Maybe. There is actually some kind of world where maybe that happens. I don't really think 100 Thieves is an option. They have Someday, they have Tenacity, they have Sniper. TL, like maybe if they decide to get rid of Bwipo, or if Bwipo decides to go back to Europe or whatever next year, but I think TL is pretty unlikely. I think TSM is for sure one of the more likely landing spots, but I also think there is kind of a dark horse team that I'll talk about in a second as well. As far as FPX, this was a team that was not great. If we look at the summer regular season, we can pull it up real quick. They actually went 7-9 in matches. They ended up finishing 9th place in the LPL. The LPL is like 50 different teams in it. So they ended up finishing 9th. They made the playoffs. They went 7-9, 19-21 in games overall. They did have a better record with Summit as their top laner than with their other top laner. I want to say it was like Zhao Laohu or something like that was their other top laner. And Summit had a higher win rate. Summit, I think, played better overall. The team looked better with him. I don't know if it's going to say on here or not. Yeah, they had Zhao Laohu and then Summit, and Summit played better. They had a better win rate with him. But still, they were just kind of a middle of the pack team. But even then, even if you're a middle of the pack team, you're still playing all the teams in the LPL. Summit's going to get to play against a lot of these other top laners. And again, a lot of times Summit looked pretty good. And that's all he needed to do. He just needed to prove that the 2-27 Renekton or whatever in the LCS playoffs wasn't him, that he can bounce back from that and he can still be good once again, which isn't like totally crazy. Obviously, he's still a really, really good player just because he had a couple bad weeks in the playoffs or whatever. But hey, people still need to see it. People still need to prove it. And doing it in the LPL is honestly a pretty big statement. Here's what he looked like in the playoffs. They played against OMG in the first round of the playoffs. Summit with a 4-1-4 game on Aatrox, where FPX did win. In the next game, Summit goes 7-4-3 on his one of his signature picks, which is Gnar, but they did end up losing in this game. And then in game 3, they'd end up losing again, where Summit would go 3-5-5 on the Aatrox. FPX was now at risk of being eliminated from the playoffs, but they would bounce back. Summit going 3-5-6 on the Kennen. Obviously not an insane game or anything like that. But then in game 5, Summit would pull out his Gnar once again and go 2-1-10. So overall, not an insane series by Summit, but it was good enough to win a playoff series in the LPL. And, that's really nothing to scoff at. OMG, they were 8-8 in the regular season, one spot above FPX. So that was still a big win for them, being able to pull that out. But then they would have a date with EDG in the second round. Obviously, EDG, a powerhouse team. Summit going 1-5-1 in game 1 on the Gragas. Not necessarily a great way to start that. And then he'd pull out a 0-7-4 on Ornn. So looking a little rough so far, 2 games into the EDG series. But then he would go 2-2-6 on the Jax, and they would get a win. This is a pretty big win for FPX. Honestly, we can see that EDG was 11-5 and 25-13 in games in the regular season. So a team that's just much better than FPX, and League of Legends is a team game, obviously. So if your team's worse, it's going to be harder for you guys to stand out and look good. But then in the final game where they would get eliminated, Summit would go 6-5-3. He would go out pretty valiantly with an okay performance. But FPX, their season would come to an end. And if we look at the global contract database, I'm not sure. I know in the LCS and LEC, the global contract database is like always pretty up to date. In the LPL, I'm not sure exactly how close they keep it up to date or whatever, but Summit was supposed to be a free agent. Summit was only having like a 1-split deal with FPX. He was going to be a free agent after the split either way, but he's not in the global contract database anymore. You can see for FPX, you can see, they still have Zhao Laohu, but they don't have Summit. Now, I never really checked the global contract database for the LPL very often, so I don't know if Summit was ever on here, but to me, it's interesting that he's not on here. Maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't, but either way, he's set to be a free agent this offseason, and it didn't sound like he was likely to re-sign with FPX, I don't think. I still do think there's some LEC options, some LCS options, and overall, one of the more interesting options I do think is perhaps CLG as well. I was talking on Hot Takes this past week, and to me, the CLG team seems a lot like the Golden Guardians team from a couple years ago with Closer, FBI, Huhi, where they were a really, really good team, and they, made some waves. They upset some teams in the playoffs. They were kind of looking like they had some promise. But then once that group goes to 100 Thieves and pairs up with, Someday, then they're able to take it to the next level. And I think CLG right now, they have some good players. They have Palafox, who's been okay. They have Luger and Poom, who have been okay. but like, is this team of Dokla and Contracts and Palafox, Luger and Poom, is those 5 players really ever going to like go to Worlds or compete for an LCS title or something like that? I don't know. I don't think so. But all of a sudden you throw a guy like Summit into that mix, and you really play around him aggressively and give him a chance to carry, and then you mix him up with some of these really, really good North American players. That all of a sudden could be a really fun team. I think CLG and TSM are the most likely options for Summit if he is headed to North America, but I also think EG could be a really fun and interesting dark horse team as well. But like I said, I think there's going to be teams from all 4 regions that are going after Summit. I think he's going to have a very, very healthy free agent market, and I think he's going to be good in 2023, and honestly, I'm rooting for him. He was fun to watch in the LCS. He did good content. Yeah, he didn't have a great end to his C9 tenure, but it seemed like he's able to bounce back from that well, and obviously C9 ended up okay without him as well. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about anything we talked about in this video today. Consider checking out the first link in the description below for my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/I_am_Germ. That'd be awesome. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.